The Phoenix Police Department is restarting their search for a new chief. Why the sudden change, and where does the search go from here? Plus, Arizona is one of the worst states for food waste, throwing away approximately $9.5 billion worth of food. Find out how one organization is trying to fight the waste. And a look at Lori Vallow's trial in Arizona. It's all that and more this evening on Broomhead. Welcome, I'm Mike Broomhead. Before we jump into today's show, let's take a look at some of the top stories from the past week. Biggest story of the week has to be that the Phoenix Suns have fired their head coach after one season. The coach is now the third coach 3 seasons in a row that have been fired at the end of their first season. This is chaos. This is dysfunction, all the things people say. But more than anything else, for the fans of the Phoenix Suns, they want stability. The Suns have got the highest paying roster in the entire NBA, and yet they didn't make the playoffs. They have got Devin Booker, which is a legitimate superstar, along with Kevin Durant, along with Beal. They've got the team players, but they don't have the team. Are they going to be able to find a coach? Do they go younger? Do they go with someone a little bit more seasoned? One way or the other, how are they going to get this team back? Because I am a big believer of having these professional sports teams. It makes us a better culture. Whether it's the Arizona Cardinals, by the way, congratulations to Michael Bidwill, the president of the Cardinals, being inducted into the Arizona Sports Hall of Fame. But also, what about the Arizona Diamondbacks? The Diamondbacks are off to a good start. They've got a great young team. This is the best team we've seen on the field since they won a World Series. They were in the World Series a couple of years ago. But they are in a stadium that they don't own, that needs a lot of repairs. And right now there are bills in the state legislature that would keep the Diamondbacks here. We've got to keep an eye on this. Will we see this legislation passed that would allow them to capture some of their tax revenue that is money spent inside the stadium for those repairs? Better fan experience, better team experience. And it would solidify that one of our professional sports teams has a home for the long term. We know what that stability does. It's always great for the area. I am a big believer that professional sports play a big role in building a culture in our society. And I think that more than anything else is what we should be focused on long term for all of these sports teams. We need them. Coming up, the Phoenix Police Department is restarting their search for a police chief after the sudden resignation of interim chief Michael Sullivan. Where does the search go from here? Find out when Broomhead returns. It's important to recognize and thank the fine Arizona men and women who are serving in our country's military. One of the ways we like to do that is through a segment called From Arizona for America, and it's brought to you by my good friends at Sanderson Ford. Join me in honoring Master-at-Arms Seaman Rayanne Aumel from Phoenix aboard the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier USS George Washington, stationed at Yokosuka, Japan. For a list of more of our friends and neighbors that are from Arizona for America, go to the Broomhead tab at cw7az.com. A lot of questions at the Phoenix Police Department, big changes in management, the expectation of a new police chief, and then the interim police chief quits. To talk about this and the effects on Phoenix PD from PPSLA is Ben Leuchner, the head of the organization. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
I want to spend just a minute kind of catching up. Interim Chief Sullivan brought in to kind of navigate the scenario with the Department of Justice. He was one of the 4 finalists that was named to take the job of the permanent police chief. And then it seems like, at least in the 11th hour, he withdrew his name, and the city announced they are starting over in the process. What does that do to the organization to have that kind of indecision?
Mike, quite honestly, it's frustrating for my membership. That's the feedback that I'm getting, only because we've been in limbo for quite a while. And obviously, you know that we did a survey where the survey showed that in the high 90s in the percentile rate, people did not want to see Chief Sullivan continue in that role. So now that we've been told we have to wait several more months, frustration is probably the best word as far as trying to get some leadership in place.
I'm going to talk about that survey for a moment. And by the way, PPSLA is a Sergeant and Lieutenants Association at Phoenix PD, so people understand. The supervisors, these are in-the-field supervisors of the street cops that do all the work in the field.
Correct.
If you have people in supervisory roles that are frustrated, I know that there is often between management and labor, there's always contention. But what does that 90+% number mean? I mean, how significant is the number?
So you're always going to have people that are dissatisfied, right?
Yeah.
At any workplace. That's normal. We expect that. What we didn't expect in our survey was such a high percentage, because when we asked the question, for example, should PPSLA support Chief Sullivan for the process, 98% of our membership actually came back saying no. And then there were comments made by our members, which were, you probably saw some of them, but they were very raw, emotional comments. And that took us by surprise a little bit, because we knew the general feeling, but we didn't realize it was that strong. And for any organization the size of Phoenix to have that kind of response told us that overwhelmingly our rank and file supervisors were saying we were not getting leadership.
The biggest concerning thing for me that I saw was the question was asked, do you believe that basically is the chief running the agency and making the decisions? And it was 96, almost 97% said no. But when the follow-up question was asked, who is, if you don't believe he is, it was the city manager, assistant city manager, city council. Concerning for people, is that concerning to you that officers and lieutenants and sergeants believe that it's outside of the police department that's making police decisions?
Yeah, and so what's interesting is that's my membership, right? And then I'm in a special role where I have the privilege, I suppose, of meeting with these people. So I meet with Lori Bays, I meet with Jeff Barton, I meet with my members too. So I was hearing that anecdotally from my members that they thought Lori Bays is running it. I would actually talk to her and I would ask her and I would tell her, hey, I have members, and this is before the survey, that believe you're running the show. And I believe her. I mean, she was very sincere when she says she is not. And then Chief Sullivan would tell me the same thing. He's running the show, but I couldn't get my members to believe that. And
So where's that lack of communication?
There's something going on there where there was either a vacuum of leadership, right, from Chief Sullivan, or there's some truth to this story, right? Because we had this information from command staff too, that it might be a combination of the two. In other words, you have a vacuum of leadership, plus you have perhaps Lori Bays was trying to then make some decisions, and it could be something like that was going on. We're hoping that if we get a new strong leader in place, that goes away.
So that's my last question. What do you want to see in the next police chief?
So, I know Jeff Barton used the word unicorn, which is kind of a funny term because they don't exist. We're looking for the best possible candidate. We're looking for somebody who will support the rank and file. And I'm not saying just be a yes man to whatever the unions say. That we never are looking for that. And we're also not against reform. That's what people need to understand. We actually do believe in reform. But we need a chief that understands what's going on with our morale right now, because it is at rock bottom. We are losing people left and right. We are in a staffing crisis. We are at the lowest numbers that we've had since the 1990s. And so we're at a point now where we can't answer the calls anymore. And the public doesn't even know that because we don't really publicize that very often. But it is true, and it is a staffing crisis, and we think that if we have a strong leader in place who's competent, that they can actually turn this ship around, hopefully, to where we keep our officers.
Well, I wish you the best, and I appreciate the information and the insight.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back. Coming up, Lori Vallow Daybell, known as the Doomsday Mom, continues to make headlines for the murder conspiracy trial. We're hearing from a former defense attorney about his thoughts on this case. All right, welcome back. All eyes seem to be on another trial in Arizona, this one of Lori Daybell. Joining us to talk about this is Kirk Nurmi. First of all, thank you for doing this.
Oh, always an honor to be with you, Mike.
The significance, of course, for a lot of people that recognize you is that you were the defense attorney for Jodi Arias. So you have been a part of one of these all eyes on trial. What's that like for someone that's trying to either defend her, she's defending herself, but she's got people advising her, and what's it like with the intensity of that scrutiny?
Yeah, I think the intensity can be really overwhelming, but as an attorney, and it's obviously different, as you mentioned, she's representing herself, she might not feel some of that scrutiny. She's not walking outside the courthouse. She's not seeing the social media posts. She's probably not getting threats like me and my defense team got when we were trying Arias, so it's a lot different. But it's also different in the sense that, Miss Arias came in, it wasn't quite as known a quantity. She wasn't as infamous as Lori Vallow came in. We keep in mind, many of us watch in the true crime community, those who follow trials, watched her trial in Idaho, watched her be convicted of the killing of her children. So she came in with a high degree of infamy, and also her notion to represent herself puts a different spin on things, because I think maybe there's not as many eyes on it because a lot of people feel like she is looking to make this trial her spectacle, her stage, if you will.
But isn't there some commonality in that? Because I'm trying to be a psychologist here, but isn't there a commonality between the two of them? Because it seemed that way as an observer, that that's the same thing Jodi Arias was trying to do. That there's a little bit of, this is my stage. Is there some of that, do you think? Or not?
You know, I don't know that that's a fair comparison to make, because when we talk about representing yourself, that's a whole different ballgame.
Well, Ted Bundy.
Right, Ted Bundy, that sort of thing. So that's a whole different ballgame, and you have to feel like she has had 2 sets of attorneys now. Her public defenders withdraw. There's been competency evaluations. She becomes competent, and then she decides to ditch her counsel, their advisory counsel now. So she's looking to really capitalize. I think there's a big difference, right, in terms of maybe having cameras there and then wanting to perform in front of them, like we see Miss Daybell do.
So when you look at what the end of this, the possibility that she could be acquitted on any of this, what do you look for as an attorney? Is it the length of deliberation? If it takes longer to deliberate, is it better for the defendant? What is the best case scenario for her?
Well, I don't think, to be honest, Mike, I don't think there's much possibility that we're going to hear a 2-word verdict, that not guilty verdict at the end of this trial. The state's case to date has been compelling. It's been pretty straightforward, and it illustrates a pretty clear picture. And, you know, her lawyering is akin to shooting herself in the foot. She has constantly, throughout this trial, been doing everything she can, subconsciously perhaps, to sabotage her own case. So I think, you know, rather than length of deliberations, one of the things that I think a lot of experts would look at, and I would look at if I was trying the case, is the jury questions. You know, Arizona is unique. The juries have the ability to ask questions of every witness, and then both parties can follow up. But some of those questions that you hear from the jury members really kind of give a little bit of insight into what they're thinking, as opposed to the length of the deliberations, because that could mean a whole bunch of different things in many different cases.
So the last question is, since she's already been convicted in another state, if she's convicted here, what happens? Where does she serve her time?
Right. Well, keep in mind, though, Ms. Vallow, if she's convicted, she has the possibility of going to trial here again in Maricopa County for the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux.
Right.
So she's not done yet with this case, if you will, as long as the county attorney decides to prosecute it. But ultimately, because, you know, Idaho had the prosecution first, what have you, she will return to the state of Idaho to serve that sentence, and the Arizona sentence will be likely to consider to run consecutive to it. As silly as that sounds on a natural life sentence, if anything were to happen in Idaho, if something were to overturn her conviction, what have you, that consecutive sentence in Arizona would then kick in, and then she would serve her time in Arizona. But all likelihood, after this is over, the Lori show is done, she goes back to Idaho, and hopefully we hear nothing of her again.
Unless she gets put on, are they going to prosecute here? The second one? Do you think the county attorney will?
I think so. I've heard people that are connected to the county attorney's office feel like that if they get a conviction in this case, they may not pursue charges against Brandon Boudreaux, but I don't personally feel that's likely, because it seems to me that Ms. Kay, the prosecutor in this case, is looking to get justice for all the victims, and Brandon Boudreaux, the attempted murder of him, would certainly fit into that category.
Appreciate the time and the expertise as always.
You bet, Mike.
We'll be back. Coming up, around 119 billion pounds of food is thrown away every year in Arizona. One organization in the valley is finding innovative solutions to stop the waste and feed those in need. Learn all about them next. Here's a look at some upcoming events that should be on your radar. First up, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks versus the Atlanta Braves, taking place Friday, April 26th at Chase Field. The game starts at 5:10 p.m. Tickets are still available online. Then, 4NR takes the stage with a tribute to Foreigner, happening on April 25th and 26th at Casino Arizona. Tickets are going fast, so seating choice will be limited. We talk about hunger all the time and different ways to address it, and there is a great, unique way that we are addressing hunger right here in our community. I'm with Tonya, and she is with Waste Not, this great program. Tell us about the program.
Waste Not is a nonprofit organization that partners with restaurants, businesses to take their food that they're unable to use and get it into the hands of nonprofit organizations that are feeding hungry people in our community.
I was reading statistics. 1 in 10 are food insecure. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
That's amazing in this community where it seems like we're so prosperous to have that many hungry people and food insecure, and this is really helping address that.
Right, yeah. People, there are a lot of different variables that feed into that food insecurity. It could be, an income situation. Sometimes it's just having that access to be able to get to, a grocery store where they can get the food. So we just love the support of our partners who are finding all those places in the community and really helping to bridge the gap.
And I think people need to understand that we associate so often hunger with people that are unhoused.
Right.
But many of these people are working people who are just having a difficult time making ends meet, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So a lot of times, it's the decision of, am I taking care of my light bills or am I going to feed my family for the evening? And so, we're happy to be able to help make less of those, tough decisions by being able to, support those nonprofits that are able to provide the food boxes or able to serve a community meal.
And what's great about this is it's the perishable food items, correct?
Yes.
And you get donations from grocery stores and businesses. How does it work? So you get a notification or they call you that they've got food to be picked up.
Right.
Your drivers go and get it, and then what happens?
Right. So our drivers are on the road 5 days a week. They're visiting, grocery stores, sometimes even special events, are contacting us, and they're giving us all that food that they're unable to use. Same day, those drivers are going out, they're visiting, nonprofit agencies and delivering the food to them so they can put it together either, for use in a community pantry or for a daily meal.
And so many times this food gets right off the truck into a kitchen, and it's dinner that night.
Correct. Yep, that's what's happening.
So if there are companies out there, whether they're caterers, whoever it might be, if they're interested in inquiring, how easy is it for them to get involved?
It's simple. All they have to do is make contact with our food sourcing specialist, James. They can find his information on our website, wastenotaz.org, and just figure out, what they need to do to get in process.
So what about someone else? If an average citizen says, I'd like to support a cause like this, how do they get involved? Donations?
Yeah. So also on our website, Waste Not AZ, we have a giant donate button, so you can make donations there, or also get involved as a volunteer as well. So there's no shortage of ways that we can support this effort because the need is growing, and there are so many different ways that we can make those connections and really help bridge the gap.
And let's talk about the advantages, because for a business, you are a nonprofit, so this is a tax-deductible donation.
Yes.
You're not wasting the food anymore.
Right.
It's going to a great cause. You can take a tax deduction.
Exactly.
And it's helping this program feed hungry people. What could be better than this?
Right. Yeah, it's a great thing. Yeah, some of our business partners who've been around for a long time, they really see the value, that it's a cost savings to them actually to be able to, connect with us and have us take that, food that they're unable to use and be able to put it to good use in the community.
Round numbers, how many people do you feed a year or a month or a week? What do those numbers look like?
Yeah, so last year we were able to serve over 2.7 million meals with all the food, that we claimed from businesses. So that's huge. And, as you mentioned, the need it's big here in our state. So we're very proud to be able to do that. And just with the support of more, community partners, we'll be able to continue to help really make an impact in that arena.
Well, Tonya, I thank you so much for your hard work. It's such a fantastic program, and thanks for everything you guys do.
Thank you.
Waste Not is the program. If you're a business that can donate some of the food that you have, if you're an individual that wants to support a worthwhile cause, feeding hungry people in our community, no one should be hungry right here where we live, and you can help stop that by joining Waste Not. Thanks for watching. Thank you to all the guests who joined us on today's show. If you missed any of the interviews or want to rewatch them, head over to cw7az.com/Broomhead. Now, every Sunday here on Broomhead, we ask a new poll question we'd like you to participate in. The question could be about the economy, water, housing, or anything related to Arizona. This week, the question is, do you agree with the decision to fire the Phoenix Suns head coach? All you have to do is head over to cw7az.com/Broomhead to respond to the poll question. Next week, ADOT has been working tirelessly to make some much-needed updates to our highways system. We're going behind the cones to see the progress. Thank you for joining us this week on Broomhead.